Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. You know, many of us gripe about the fact, and we complain a lot about the fact that there aren't enough true journalists covering this fringe field. Thankfully for us, there's a new pen in town. Her name is Krissy Eliot. Her website, hotalien.com. Chrissy started her writing career in San Francisco, where she had the oddball task of putting her name on the map, covering a story about Bay Area sex cults. Yes, in her research into oddball stories, she started to notice her interest in legends such as Bigfoot, UFOs, mind control, plant consciousness, and all manners of weird things. So this is where we are today. She is a level-headed voice that is growing in the community. I predict, and I'm going to predict this right now, you're going to see her name all over documentaries. You're going to see her name headlining conferences within the next few years. That's how confident I am in this young lady's ability. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. Krissy Eliot, thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio. How are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm so flattered by that introduction. I hope I can live up to that awesome image you have of me in the future.
Well, I'll tell you why. The one thing that this field, whether it's UFOs, not so much paranormal, but Bigfoot, the cryptid world, is really lacking is young, motivated female talent. There's a lot of guys out there doing this, but not a lot of young ladies your age and in and around your age who are wanting to tackle these subjects from a professional level. There's a real difference, in my opinion, between those who are going out in the field and playing ghost hunter or chasing down Sasquatch or bringing a camera outside their balcony to see if they could catch a UFO, and those who are really trying to dig into the news, the stories, the tips around what is causing all of this. And I think that you are that bright star that really needs to shine in this field. So congratulations to you. I expect a lot of good things out of you. I know there's many in this community as your name grows who are saying the exact same things that I am. So this shouldn't be shocking to you right now. It really shouldn't.
Well, it is. I didn't realize like other people were saying that, but that makes my heart warm. Just the funny thing about it was like, I just kind of fell into it and I just fell in love with figuring these kinds of things out. And I just feel so, grateful that I'm from this outpouring of support. You all are awesome.
What have you learned in your short time in this field? What have you learned that either shocked you positively or cringed you negatively?
My biggest positive shock was that so many intelligent people are kind of undercover, almost looking into the paranormal and the strange. And if you actually talk to scientists, like have a conversation with them, they'll say like, oh, well, I believe this, but like off the record, like, I think, this about this, but don't put that in your article. Just put, that I'm, objective or whatever, because their careers depend on it. Right. So for me, that was extremely mind blowing because when I first started writing about Bigfoot and stuff, with the science journalism background, I was used to people saying, oh, this is all, a bunch of crap. So I was just really surprised by how open-minded scientists actually are behind the scenes.
And that is one of the big things that I think is very much lacking is that internal stuff, that internal information that we're all trying to eke out. I mean, when one drip comes from the UFO faucet or the Bigfoot faucet, it literally fills oceans in this field. Have you thought about how the people take this, how they are are all moving on drips that are coming out and making, another cliche, mountains out of molehills?
Right. Well, so my perspective on that is it's really tough because I understand the desperation. Like you know me, I have not had a personal encounter, no abductions, no nothing. But so I don't personally know the desperation that people are feeling, but I understand it. If I were to have an encounter that I couldn't explain, I would want to do everything I could to gather scientific evidence to help sort of root me in material reality, right? So I'm empathetic to it, but it also puts them into a position where nobody trusts them because it just becomes all about like, we have to prove this. And that in itself is unscientific, right? If you're going in with like a mission to prove something. So I feel like it's a very sticky situation.
Why did you decide to get out of mainstream journalism on a full-time level to start covering these fringe topics that the mainstream still wants to laugh about, whether it's the people reading or whether it's the editors who are making the decision on how many words per column you're getting?
Yeah. So yeah, I did have the full-time, editor job at California, and I just kind of, I feel like when I became a freelance journalist, I could focus on whatever I wanted to, which was great. But the other part of it was in terms of the paranormal and the strange, so many people were telling me not to write about it. And as a journalist, if somebody tells you don't look there, like there's no story here, you're like, okay, there's a story here, right? I've had sources, like not even necessarily in the paranormal, but if you're on the phone with a source and you ask too good of a question, they'll start yelling at you. And even if it's just a question, like a basic question, and all you have to say back is, it's just a question. And when they raise their voice, that's when you know you're onto something, right? So like I had people telling me, like when I said I was going to write about Bigfoot, I had people tell me that there was no way I would ever get a professional job, a good job, a serious job ever again, because people would read that I was covering this and I would never get hired. But, after that, I ended up actually getting more feedback that was positive from scientists and academics because I covered it in an objective and clear, concise way. And then I got a job working in aerospace for like a year and a half. So it's just funny to me. I think people just don't participate because they're afraid and they try to impose their fears on you. And it's just a bunch of crap.
You hit the nail on the head there, and I could have a journalism conversation with you literally all night long, because one of my pet peeves in this field is how many fake journalists we have. People who steal the title, they've never worked on the beat, they don't even know what the beat is. All right. And yet you go on their profiles, they say, I'm a journalist, or I'm an investigative journalist, or one title that doesn't exist, I'm a UFO journalist. As a professional, and I'm curious because I remember asking George Knapp this question, and it bugs the hell out of him. It really does. But as a professional journalist who's gone through the ranks from the bottom of the barrel where you're rewriting copy to going and trying to break big stories, does it bother you as much as it does me when you see all of these, what I like to call them, fake journalists in this field stealing your title that you built a career off of?
So, yes and no. I think that a lot of people don't actually understand what a journalist is. And I don't even think it has to do with, the era of fake news or whatever. I mean, I don't think it helps that everything's sort of, overblown and, over the top just for clicks and whatnot. But I think people don't understand that journalists aren't supposed to have an agenda when they sit down to write. Now we constantly see pseudo journalism, it's like masquerading, as the real thing. And if you actually go through articles published in like the New York Times and stuff, and you fact check them, if you really just take the time to fact check, you'll realize that they're not correct. And I don't know, it's not just in the paranormal or fringe community that this is happening. I think there's like this weird transformation of journalistic ethics and like what that means. You know, there's these jobs now, they're called journalism adjacent, which means they're a fusion of essentially working for a company, but reporting on things as a journalist. And I think that that's the only real way that you can make money now. And so I think that a lot of what we're seeing is sort of transforming in that way. But specifically for the paranormal, I think it kind of goes back to the science conversation we were having, where it's like people don't understand that science is supposed to be neutral. People don't understand journalism is supposed to be neutral. So maybe they're just calling themselves journalists because they just have no clue what the real purpose of one is.
So the fact that we have a bunch of people who are claiming this title and are writing about UFOs, writing about the paranormal, writing about cryptids, is it a disservice to the community because of the lack of professional journalism, or are they doing good by at least attempting to get the word out?
Yes, good or bad, very complicated. I think that misinformation is not good. I would go and say that, and I think that there's a lot of that out there. I think also that people are trying to get clicks regardless, and just like build up some sort of image for themselves. I see that a lot. I guess I would say, you know, it's hard for me to call it blanket bad just because I don't know what everybody's situation is. But I would say I would prefer that more journalists, you know, more real journalists who are trained in journalism, who have worked at publications, I would prefer that they actually take this on and do more of it. So maybe the rest of the internet doesn't feel as if they need to compensate for it. That would be my analysis. It's like people just keep trying to blast this stuff out because they're just not seeing it anywhere else.
Do you believe in the subjects that you were covering? Do you believe in aliens? Do you believe in Bigfoot? Do you believe in ghosts, ET contact, alien abduction?
I believe in the possibility of all those things. I would never say that they cannot happen. But I have never, like, I couldn't be honest if I said that I knew that it was all real. I would love Bigfoot to be real. I would love aliens to be real, but I can't put that in my reporting. I can't put that influence in my reporting. I could say, you know, what I just said, which is I would love for it to be true, but I just don't know.
Do you think that's what keeps you very balanced in the way you're reporting because you haven't experienced the unknown yet?
You know, I think even if I had experienced something, even if I saw, you know, some sort of cryptid running through the woods, when I sat down to write a piece about it, I would still have to say, these are the possible logical things that have happened, like that we would say in the material, like, universe that we know of, like what science would put a stamp on, right? I would have to talk about that side in addition to maybe the more supernatural or ethereal side. I could present both arguments, but it would be my job as a journalist to do that. When you're a journalist, it is not about you. You want everybody to be able to make their own decisions.
Oh, you make me want to cry right now. You make me want to cry tears of happiness. Holy cow, we actually have someone who wants to do the job properly. Properly. I got to ask you, because everybody who has been waiting for this event wants to talk about the sex cult.
Of course.
Of course. This is how you made your name. And, okay, this is something that, you know, is very, how can I put it? It's not a topic we cover a lot on this show, if you know what I'm saying. It's not a topic we cover a lot. And I think for a lot of people out there, they're expecting a lot of juice. They're expecting a lot of woo woo, not just the woo, but the woo woo, and everything like that. How did you get that assignment?
So I'm originally from Maryland, and I was, going through a period in my life where I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew I had an interest in sex and like sexual exploration as like a young person. And I just decided, I was like, you know what? How can I research this stuff and like really investigate it and participate in like all these different things and not be a prostitute? Like not like go down that sort of a path, right? It's like I really wanted to intellectualize it and turn it into some sort of like research. So I moved across the country to the San Francisco Bay Area, and I was working at the time. It was a sex ed organization called gasm.org. And I was like, you know what? I've never written a story about, like, I've never written a journalistic piece before. And I was introduced to these people that ran this organization called One Taste. And it was about orgasmic meditation. And they were having this conference, this 3-day conference, where they were going to be doing all this orgasmic meditation. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go. I'm going to do it. I'm just going to write it for this small, like, organization publication. And so I went and I participated in orgasmic meditation for 3 days and wrote a 5,000-word piece on it. And that was my start. And a bunch of people read it. So
how do you go from, having an interest that everyone has an interest to, but most people like to keep it behind closed doors, to writing about, sexuality, fetishes, domination, BDSM, whatever it may be, and try and write about it logically and thoroughly?
Yeah, I want to live a life worth writing about. I think that is fundamentally at my core why I do everything. And everything I go through, everything I explore, I want to manifest as writing. And it was just such a big thing for me, as a young woman, like learning about all of this. There was sort of like a sexual freedom explosion going on at the time. There were all these new like sex podcasts and shows and everything coming out. And I don't know, I just felt like I wanted to be a part of like some sort of like new movement. And everyone was saying like a new wave of feminism is happening. And also I'm just kind of a weirdo. So I like to do weird things. And the San Francisco Bay Guardian, I had always wanted to write for them. I thought they were so cool, like longest running, like progressive paper. And so what I did was, after I wrote that orgasmic meditation piece, I sent it to, just cold emailed the editor, Steve, and I said, hey, I noticed you all haven't been covering sex in a while. Would you maybe want me to freelance for you? And he read the piece and he said, wow, this is great. Do you want your own column? And I just got my own column. So it was basically within 3 months of moving to the Bay Area that I just became this sex journalist. And yeah, I don't know. I guess, does that answer your question?
So how does it go from, covering sexuality and everything that is very human about many of us to getting into the cultish side of sexuality?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, so my perspective, my pet perspective on this is an opinion, is that we are constantly being infiltrated, like media is constantly infiltrating our sex lives, and ideas about sex in society are shaping how we are in the bedroom, right? And so in the case of this sex organization, right, One Taste, now some people have called it a cult, and I've known people who said that they, quote, escaped the cult. But, who knows? But basically, like, I guess I just wanted to experience what this this big like organization's movement was, and it was all about worshiping women. And it was all about like just like stroking women and like all that stuff. It was not about men at all. At all. And I thought that was a really tempting idea. And the idea on its face is really good because so often women are taught to just be subservient, whereas in this particular cult situation, it was the opposite. So that enticed me to go write about it. And just see how that kind of perspective could affect my personal sex life.
How did your views change?
From reporting on that?
From reporting on it, because I think we all would have, as we got about just over 90 seconds here, we all have a preconceived notion of what we like, what we dislike, what we'll do, what we won't do, things that are completely off limits compared to things that are, well, what the hell, I've had a few drinks. You know what I'm saying? And how did your perspective, from a professional level, change on the way people view sexuality in regards to it?
I would say that I realized that things can be a lot scarier, can seem a lot scarier than they actually are. And also I learned that not everything is like, I guess you could say happy-go-lucky. Like a lot of people say, oh, this is going to be really fun, or like going to an orgy is fun or something, but there's still a lot of really bad stuff that happens. I guess I would say that I learned, my biggest thing is sex is not the answer to happiness, but it can get you there. I went looking for happiness in sex journalism and sexual exploration, but kind of fell short. It's a little shallow.
It's the same thing with money, but I can say this, I've always felt better with more money in my pocket.
Yes.
You know how they say money can't buy happiness? I could tell you, I've been broke and I've had money. I've been much happier when I've had money. I've been much happier. But you know what? Neither here nor there. We're going to start in the next hour to start to make our transition into the weird and the woo of everything, because we have, I think, one of the up-and-coming big-time talents in everything that is cryptid, UFO, and it's a balanced voice. It's a balanced opinion, something that is very far and few between in this entire field that we call the paranormal. Krissy Eliot is our guest. HotAlien.com is her website, her blog. You can check out her amazing writing there. I highly suggest you do. We'll have more with Chrissy right after this on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're clear?
Cool.
That was a fast half hour.
Oh, yeah, it was already half an hour.
Yeah.
I tried to keep it pretty tame. I think I did it. I did a pretty tame job.
You did a pretty tame job. Remember, YouTube can hear us.
Oh. Well, yeah. I tried to keep it tame, YouTube.
Yeah.
It's not that kind of show.
All right. Stetson John. What are non-journalists to do if no one is writing the stories we want to read? I don't know. We'll get to that. No questions during the break, man. No questions during the break. This is our relax time. Relax.
Chilling.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Jock Itch, didn't you have enough pain from the other night when we roasted you good? Did you actually come back for more? I'm actually surprised by this. We had this guy named Jock Itch or Jock Strap or whatever his name is come in, and he tried trolling me really bad, and it just wasn't working. So it was honestly the worst snark I have ever had thrown at me. So I was trying to, believe it or not, I was trying to give him some tips on how to snark me properly. And by reading his stuff in our chat room tonight, it's obvious that it didn't work. All right.
What? Well, I mean, it's just, nobody wants a heckler. No heckling. Nobody comes here to see the audience in the show.
Oh, hey, Nikki, how are you, beautiful? Fast Hemi, good to see you. Thanks for coming on in. Corinth, your mustache is wound up a little too tight. We have about 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes. Jacques, you have not. No, you haven't. Hey, Sir Wolf, how you doing, man? Not Siri, Sir Wolf.
Can I just say that the name Sovereign Farts is just on point?
When he first started coming into our chat room, he goes by Sovereign Wildman, something like that. Sovereign Cosmic Wildman. And when he first started coming into our chat room, the first thing he would say all the time is something like, I farted. Right? And honestly, that is my kind of humor, okay? I get that, and I can appreciate that. You know, it's like I can appreciate Corey here in Spokane on their Washington, Idaho Bigfoot search. Great guy, by the way. All right? I can understand that he has an addiction to the Hallmark Channel. He loves the Hallmark Channel. In fact, his dad told me, point blank, because they go out looking for Bigfoot together, that Corey will literally, after like an hour and a half out in the field, in the forest, will say, hey, Dad, like, we got to go. I got a Hallmark date here in like 25 minutes. Like, we got to get going here. It's true. It's true. You know?
But yeah, I loved that it's not like supreme farts, it's sovereign farts.
Yes.
Very specific.
Yes.
Almost royal.
Extremely. Denbub, how are you, man? Good to have you here. Let's see here. We have just under a minute. Reminder to all of you that if you're new here, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button. We would really appreciate it because we'd love to have 15,000 subscribers by the time May 24th comes around. That would be my birthday present from you to me. And we're at 10,761 right now. And Super Chat is open for all of you if you want to support this show that way. Otherwise, give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. And, check us out at our store, facebook.com/the SOR Vault. You can get some great swag there, and it's a great way to, support us. Yeah. What the hell? Just do it. Go buy a shirt, damn it. We got 25 seconds.
Excellent.
Yeah. Desert Clam, I did turn my microphone down, so give me a check on that, please, if you don't mind. Yes. You having fun yet?
Yeah.
Good.
Just hanging out.
Good.
Keeping it real.
All right, here we go. 5 seconds. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much. My beard is loving tonight as well. So we really do appreciate it. I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with the hot alien herself. HotAlien.com is Krissy Eliot's website. She is a young, budding journalist in the field of ufology, paranormal, supernatural, cryptid world, and we need more journalists. She's a true journalist. And right before the break, we were covering sex cults and how you kind of got started in this entire field. Cults have been a part of ufology and the weirdness for a long, long time. When you were covering the sex cults, the fetish cults, and everything like that, were any of these subjects ever kind of brought up in conversation?
You mean were kinksters talking about aliens?
Yeah.
Stuff? No. There wasn't one crossover in my experience in San Francisco. Everyone was like very focused on their niche interests. I would say that people were more spiritual. And so there was, in San Francisco, there's sort of like an overlap between like the, I guess crystals, they would have crystals, and things like that. You'd walk into their place and there would be, like a dream catcher and some crystals next to their dildos or whatever. But like there was never like any big alien talk or UFO or ghost talk. Not with me anyway.
Oh, that's kind of weird. But how did you all of a sudden go from talking about the taboo to getting into aliens and Bigfoot?
Yeah. So it's funny because I was doing the really taboo, sex kink covering, thing for a few years. And then I just found myself an editor at California Magazine, and all of the stuff I was covering there was like, politics and science, and I guess what you would consider traditionally serious journalistic topics. And part of it was just that, I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it, that I could write with the best of them, that I could write about anything. And I can, I think. I mean, I was covering like the protests at Berkeley. I was like in the thick of it. When Milo Yiannopoulos, there was that whole thing happening with him at Berkeley. I was, on the ground at the protests, and a police officer. So like, I don't know if you've ever been like at a protest or at one of these kinds of things, but it's like really nerve wracking. So basically it's like a video game almost. You'll see this like clump of people, right? And they'll all be around somebody talking. And then suddenly, even though you're, I don't know, maybe 50 feet away, a fight will break out and suddenly everybody around will either be on you or around you. And so I was almost trampled just like standing 50 feet away from the fray. I was suddenly almost trampled, and a police officer went to save me, picked me up by my backpack, and threw me out of the fray. So like, even though it's like, oh yeah, I was covering politics, that was pretty wild too. That was some serious, like, I would say on the ground investigative stuff. So like, wait, so the question was, what was the question?
Well, just how did you make the transition from talking about the taboo and starting to get into, the other, alternative topics out there?
Yeah. So that was it. So I went from sex to serious stuff. And then while I was writing for California, which is, a Berkeley magazine, I was with my boyfriend, and he and I went into a Bigfoot film festival. And when I went in, I didn't believe at all in Bigfoot. And when I left, I believed even less in Bigfoot, because the people who were giving talks and whatever, they just like weren't very convincing. And the evidence that they presented weren't very convincing. However, Grover Krantz, the first scientist to ever come out in support of the search for Sasquatch, was a Berkeley guy. And I was so fascinated by this, and I went down like this whole rabbit hole of Grover, and I discovered like all of these mythological animals that ended up being real, like the manatee and the platypus and the giant squid, all these things. We're discovering these mythical animals all the time. And then he had this whole theory about Gigantopithecus, and how Bigfoot could actually be Gigantopithecus, and then it moved across the Bering Strait when it was still a land bridge, and all this stuff. And then I talked to folklorists and academics who were just like, yeah, actually, we're discovering large, strange creatures all the time. So this actually isn't that ridiculous. It just blew my mind. It blew my mind. And And then, of course, as I said earlier, people were telling me not to write about it. And so I just ended up having to do it. And then everybody was like, such an outpouring of support. They were like, oh my God, you covered Bigfoot so well. And like this community just like opened, like came to me with open arms and was just like, please write more about this stuff. Like, we need you. And I don't know, I just felt like I needed them too.
Going in not knowing whether or not you believe in this, you obviously had some kind of curiosity in regards to maybe it was the experiences people were claiming, or maybe it was the topics just seemed fun because maybe you're a sci-fi type of person. What road do you come down from?
Like what really sparks my interest or keeps my interest in it?
Right.
Yeah. So I live my life for stories. And I would say that fringe and weird people, they have the best stories. And I learn the most about what it means to be human and be on this planet from these kinds of people. And I think that they have a lot of wisdom in their courage. And I think that I'm really honored that I can talk to a lot of them and they can honestly just with, abandon tell me what has happened to them. I find that really inspiring. And it just, writing about finances just doesn't do it for me. I never walk away feeling like a better person after that.
Okay, so did you start off, was it Bigfoot you started off with? Or was it UFOs? So
Bigfoot, yeah.
Going into the entire Sasquatch phenomena, okay, there is a lot of stories. There's a lot of evidence. The majority really isn't compelling. There's a lot of blob squatches. There's a lot of hoaxing that goes on with, YouTube, at least 99% of the videos, I would say, are somebody in a monkey suit running around. There's a lot of arguing. There's a lot of tension. Did you realize that before you decided to jump on in?
I had no idea that so many people were at odds within the Bigfoot community. I had no idea that there are people that don't believe in Bigfoot that spend all of their time researching it. They're obsessed with it and they will fight with other people about it who believe. I was so amazed that, this one guy I know said somebody shot through his window because he told them that Bigfoot wasn't real. And there was some sort of fight going on. That was totally crazy to me that somebody would shoot through a window because of Bigfoot. I would say that was, I did not know. I had no idea.
Yeah, you have three different segregations and sections, if you ask me. You have the people who claim it's a monkey, Gigantopithecus. This is an animal that's walking around. You have the spiritual side of things where people believe it's the shapeshifter or it has some sort of magical type of powers, even telepathic at times. I would say I fall in that category because I love the woo. And then you have the people who think that Sasquatch are people too and should have voting rights. So when you have such division and such people digging their heels into it, how do you get a proper story on the subject when it comes to that?
I think you get the proper story just by listening and presenting all of the perspectives. I think that's what the story is. I think the real narrative arc of the whole Bigfoot phenomenon is what people create for it. So many ideas in the world are just completely fabricated, or all ideas in the world are completely fabricated by human beings. We don't know if they're true most of the time. I guess if you were asking me how do I determine what's crap or what's more real and what's not? I generally don't. I leave that up to...
It's not your job.
Yeah, I leave that up to the academics. Sometimes, if, for example, folklorists, they talk to, thousands of people who have certain beliefs or whatever, and they're often really empathetic people, And so often I will go to them and I will say, what does this seem like? And I will try to get that opinion. I do my best to provide a full picture of what's really going on, no matter what the group is. And the best thing about me is that I love these topics. And I would love for these things to be real, but ultimately it's not my mission in life to prove it.
Wait until you get chased out of a forest.
I'll let you know when that happens.
We had that happen in 2018. And okay. I'll tell you, me and my two buddies, it was interesting. It was very interesting. I'll fill you in on that sometime.
Yes, you tell me.
Yes, I will. I promise. I promise. But covering the story, what have you learned about this creature? Not the people investigating it, but about the creature itself.
What have I learned about the creature? Well, I've learned that over time, Bigfoot changes. Like, for example, there will be reports of really angry and violent Bigfoot during certain, like, I guess you could say eras or whatever. And then other times there will be a lot of reports coming in of a very sweet Bigfoot. They're very moody animals, these Bigfoot. And then also, I've learned that, the basics are that, they're 10 to 12 feet tall and they stink real bad. And I don't know if they're vegetarian or not. What I will say is scientists that I've spoken to think that it's very unlikely that Bigfoot would be around today. They think that it could have existed a long time ago. But basically, if it was a real hominid creature, it would have to have a certain amount of its kind to breed with and sort of lean on and to live. So we're not seeing massive populations or even like small populations of these. So how are they mating? How are they staying alive? Also, a lot of people say they're vegetarian. Well, how could something that like big and like maybe even sometimes violent and all this stuff, it just doesn't sound like a vegetarian to me at all.
Me either.
Yeah. And like, let's say that Bigfoot did exist many years ago, right? What likely happened to them was Homo sapiens killed them all. Like, we kill everything. We kill anything that's a threat. You know that if there were like large populations of Bigfoot creatures running around, we would have been smart enough to storm whatever area they were in and completely get rid of all their resources. So then they would have to move, and we just kept doing that until they were basically forced out. That's pet theory of mine, and that's what I've learned from reading like other academic reports on the subject.
Can we trust the academia on it, though? Because a lot of them are very narrow-minded. And outside of Dr. Jeff Meldrum, there aren't a lot of degreed people putting their name on the line to try and find this. Sure, there has been others, but the opinion always falls back on what we know in today's scientific background rather than researching the entire phenomena. When you have people who have seen this creature disappear in front of them, sure, you have to take them at their word, but the majority of people are not going to make that up. You know what I'm saying? There's always somebody looking for their 5 minutes of fame. But the majority of people who have that aren't going to make that up. Or people who claim that they have telepathically communicated with a creature. Or, if you want to get into a real-time situation, there was the little boy down in North Carolina who claimed that when he disappeared for 2 days, that a big teddy bear had taken care of him. Well, if you know anything about bears and the way bears are, come wintertime, they're hungry. They're angry, especially if they've been woken up out of hibernation. And if they are awake, they're going to kill something to eat something. And a 3-year-old boy isn't going to be a bear's cuddle boy for a couple of days, if you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah.
So how do we kind of bridge the gap between the woo and the science that needs to come forward to try and prove or disprove the existence of this creature?
That's a great question. So it's interesting. Instinctually, since I was a child, I have never been one to jump to conclusions. So when I read anything, whether it's, just a Bigfoot blog recounting an experience or an academic study, I look at that and I go, that's interesting. But I don't actually internalize it. It's not something that I will trust implicitly forever. And I guess really this is kind of more of a philosophical thing, right? Where it's like, that most facts are not true forever, even if they're true now, like in medicine and other things. And that people's minds are flawed, our memories are flawed. We're so affected by the media and the information that we take in. A lot of studies have shown that people don't even know what they really want. If you ask them, if they want a really good relationship or something, if you actually look at their behavior, it's like the complete opposite of that. All they want to do is, I don't know, date a bunch of people or whatever. Like, you have these conversations, nobody knows what they want. Nobody has good memory. All these ideas are completely fabricated. So the best thing you can do is just sit down and say, oh, that's interesting. Let's look at all the different perspectives and put them together and see if we can find some sort of commonality. I would say that that's the best thing. And in terms of finding that commonality, the main similarity between scientists and I guess you would call citizens or people who are non-scientists, non-academics, the main similarity is we all want to find out what the truth is. And I think so often people forget that, and then they end up fighting.
I would agree with you on that. And I don't think that a lot of people understand the economic impact that this creature could have. I mean, we all talk about, the government is hiding this creature on us. The government is hiding everything. I don't really know if I buy that with Sasquatch. UFOs, 100%. UFOs and aliens, I'll go there all the time. But when it comes to Bigfoot, I know personally in my own town where logging crews have been scared out by these creatures. Mm-hmm. And there is an economic impact. Because if you can't get a crew, when you get a logging area that you're allowed to log, that's about $4 or $5 million. That's your year, or or at least your half year to log that area. That's where you're going to make your money for the year. That's where you're going to pay your employees a good salary. I mean, most loggers around here are making $70,000, $80,000, $90,000, $100,000. Okay, if you have a crew of 10, well, there's $1 million just in payroll. All right.
Yeah.
Never mind the equipment and everything like that. But if all of a sudden Sasquatch is proven in that area, there's no more logging because the government's going to shut it down. There is no more mining, potentially. There's no more tourism in that area, at least for a few years, until they figure out the migration, the food patterns, the where are these creatures living, sleeping, moving through the day and night. There's a lot of factors and years of study that go on to protect that area that will have a negative economic impact on the blue-collar type industries. And I don't think a lot of people who are even studying that think about that kind of impact when they think about proving the existence of this creature.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I mean, those are good points to make. And then, but then also as a journalist, you run into somebody who tries to tell me that, a very prominent university has tried to burn down woods to kill Bigfoot. You happen across that too. It's a lot of this stuff has no proof. There's just no proof. And nobody's willing to comment on it or whatever. So like as a journalist, like legally, I actually can't report on a lot of this stuff because I would get sued. Like, you just can't do it. If you don't have adequate proof, I mean, that's why like at the New York Times and everything, they have like a whole legal team that runs through an entire article before it sees the light of day. It's a very tricky thing.
It is a very tricky thing. As we got about 2 minutes before we're going to go to break here at the top of the hour, journalist Krissy Eliot is with us. As you go forward in searching for Bigfoot, if let's say you had your own experience, do you think that would taint the way you are writing things?
I think if I had my own experience with Bigfoot, I might be in denial about it for a while. Just because I know myself and I know that I'm always questioning what I see. I would say if I were to write a first-person experiential piece about what happened to me, that would be a different thing. That would be, like an opinion piece published in, whatever. However, if I were to sit down and write about it, I would just still stick to being balanced. It's my job. That's what the job is. And honestly, any editor who publishes something that isn't balanced sucks.
Well,
that's just my opinion.
You just labeled 50% of all journalism outlets out there right now. Honestly, you did. But seriously though, I get that and I understand the unbiasedness of it. But when you become an experiencer itself, it leads a lot more credence to the inside of the story of what people are going through.
Mm-hmm. Well, I try to express what people are going through when I cover it. I try to like keep that incorporated in my pieces. Even if I can't say it for sure happened. Like that's not my job, but all I can do is recount what I know. And I don't know very much. None of us do.
Well, when we come back, I want to hear some of the stories you have written on this creature, and then we're going to get more into UFOs and aliens at the bottom of the hour because I'm having a great time. We're 1 hour down. We got another 90 minutes with our guest tonight, journalist Krissy Eliot. HotAlien.com is her website. I'm on a roll here trying to go out of commercial. You just woo. You can't just woo like that. It's dangerous.
We might explode.
It's just dangerous. Krissy Eliot, Spaced Out Radio. I'm Dave Scott. We'll go to hour 2 after this. All right, we're clear. I'm just going to run my dogs outside. I'll be right back, okay?
Okay.
Here, you can listen to some commercials.
All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the story you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Hello, Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month. And follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at mightymoosebeard.com today.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio and check out Cryptid Tales today.
All right, there we go. We've got like 3 minutes.
Sick.
Yeah, man. Hey, Stuart Swales, welcome back. Stu Gerson. Right there, buddy. Mad Kiwi, good to see you. Dangerous Davies. I would love to find somebody to talk about that. Randy says, Dave, I think everyone is in love with Chrissy.
Aw, I love you all too.
Yeah. I don't blame them. I don't blame them. Chris Mo, what's happening, man? Hey, little Davey Altman, you got a good client here.
Hey, Davey.
Little Davey Altman.
Little Davey boy.
Love him. Good dude.
Little baby. Little baby Davey.
It's the only guy I know who every time I pick up the phone, I'm like, hey, Dave, how's it going? Well, what the fuck do you want? What are you bugging me for? I just wanted to say hi. Oh, okay. Hey, Mandingo, how you doing? How's tomorrow looking in New Zealand? Are we alive? Could you please give us an update? Cherry Pepsi Mike, not coming to Canada anytime soon because we're out of cherry Pepsi up here. Literally.
What?
Yeah. It is sold out, and they haven't made more.
Tragedy.
Totally. All right, we got 1 minute. Thank you to everyone who's given us a thumbs up so far tonight, and everybody who is new who has hit that subscribe button. The super chat is open if you want to support this show that way. That is totally your choice. And you can do a little shopping at facebook.com/the SOR Vault. Pick up a great t-shirt or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 because we've got some killer designs on there. And big thank you to all of you tuning on in this week. It's been a lot of fun. And, God, just keeps getting better and better every week. Every week. Except the trolling. The trolling has been terrible this week.
Boo, trolls.
Trolling has been terrible.
Get over yourselves.
No, I that's not even it. It's like bring some proper game to the table. All right, here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Second hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. Well, I want to say thank you to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free for you by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Talagia. Talagia is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with journalist Krissy Eliot. I tell you, she is one of the young, brilliant minds of this field. We're going to hear a lot about her in the years to come here on Spaced Out Radio and around the world when it comes to this. Her website, hotalien.com, where you could read her blog on everything from Bigfoot to aliens and everything in between. Krissy, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be here.
You're very welcome. I got to ask you, when it comes to the Bigfoot experience, that you hear the stories of what people are talking about, you know, when you're writing about the experiences, is there one that has stood out to you that you're just like, wow, like, I got to report on this, but that just sounds way too good to be true?
That's a good question. Well, too good to be true.
Or just, let's just say one that really kind of stuck out for you.
Okay, well, this one I didn't end up putting it into print. This one was my favorite one, was that a woman said that she was feeding Bigfoot underneath a bridge, and that she was like keeping Bigfoot alive for however long. But the thing about me the thing that I thought was most funny about it was she said that, well, I know that trolls aren't real, so it must have been Bigfoot that I was feeding. And I just thought that was a pretty fascinating logic jump to get from, you know, there to here. So yeah, in terms of like too good to be true, do you mean like believable?
Have you heard a story that had impact on you?
Okay, well, yeah, the troll story definitely impacted me. I will never forget that. I think the stories that impact me most are the ones where people say they're having consistent encounters with Bigfoot, and Bigfoot families, like where they can go out into the woods and they'll see like all of these glowing eyes, and then suddenly they'll be surrounded by them. And they talk about it like it's similar to a UFO, like an abduction, an alien abduction, where they are just like having these strange experiences. And then of course that sort of overlaps. But that I had never imagined that Bigfoot would be some sort of alien or ethereal being until I really started digging into it and hanging out with all you cool folks.
Do you believe it is ethereal in a way? Supernatural? I know you want to remain unbiased here, and I'm trying that, but if we took the journalism side away and Chrissy, the human being, mm-hmm. where are you leaning?
So I would say it's probably more likely that it's a flesh and blood critter, flesh and blood being, just because, again, I looked into Grover Kranz's theories on Gigantopithecus and like look at how we actually discover things on a regular basis that are, you know, large, small animals. So for me, it's actually not that insane to think that it would be a flesh and blood creature. It's harder for me to believe that it's some sort of spiritual or multidimensional being. Yeah, that would just be harder for me to comprehend.
See, I thought that too, until I had a situation personally where I saw pixelation standing beside a tree. And this pixelation was from the ground up probably 8-10 feet. And, you know, to describe the pixelation for our audience who hasn't heard this story before, it was just like you see on TV, the little square boxes that would blur out someone's face. Mm-hmm. And 20, 30 seconds later, 4 of us got roared at right from where that area was. Mm-hmm. And that was the most spine-tingling roar/scream I have ever heard in my life. And that's where all of a sudden I was like, maybe there is something to all these indigenous stories that have been going around for hundreds of years.
Well, I think that the indigenous stories could have been talking about a flesh and blood creature, because when you actually look at, you know, the cave drawings and stuff, the Bigfoot creature was among their depictions of animals. So it sort of was just in that sphere, right? So to me, it doesn't necessarily have to be like a flickering hologram or whatever it is from another multiverse or whatever.
Yeah, see, that's what I don't know. But I don't think we can close the door on it. And I think right now there's too many researchers out there who claim to be scientists who have no idea what they're even studying, because they're closing off a door to numerous ones. And a topic that you and I have talked about privately, I was talking to someone, and I have to email them back this weekend, regarding one of their reports that they filed to the Bigfoot Research Organization. And when they read their story on the BFRO, they were absolutely upset that their report had been edited for the sake of going on that website. Mm-hmm. And when they reached out to the BFRO, they literally stated that they never received a response back as to why his report, which had some paranormal activity around it, why it all of a sudden that portion of the paranormal activity was edited out. And he's like, well, why did I waste my time? I'm searching for answers here as to what I saw, and I'm not even getting answers because my report is being edited.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I would say that I understand why the BFRO or anybody might approach these kinds of reports with trepidation, just because there is so much stigma when it comes to the paranormal and, you know, I don't know, like UFOs or whatever. I just think that in order to change things, you can't just go storming in. I think that you do actually have to be kind of strategic about the way that you cover things. Like, for example, me, if I had just come out and said oh yeah, you know, Bigfoot is real or whatever, I would never be in the place that I am now. However, I've shown that you can actually cover it and be a serious journalist. You just have to approach things carefully and you know, with rationalism.
Okay, speaking of something completely irrational, the UFO community. I mean, if there wasn't a bigger crowd that needed straitjackets, it's the UFO community. And I'm probably one of them who needs them as well. So I'm insulting myself in that as well, because I am majorly in the woo category when it comes to that. But with the UFOs, there are way more different aspects on how you cover this story. You have the governmental side, you have the propulsion side, you have the alien side, you have the UAP side, you have the telepathy, the consciousness, the different beings, those who've experienced, those who've been taken, those who are like Travis Walton, and those who have disappeared and never come back. How do you tackle such a big topic when there is a variety of opinion and subject matter?
Oh, that's a good question. Honestly, I start with I start with the scientific facts. And the evidence, the physical evidence that we have of these things existing. I always start there. And I know that, like, if you asked me about it, yes, I think that there is far more to the universe than we can see, far more than the material. But, I don't have access to that. I'm just a gal. I'm just a regular Jane.
You're a Jane. You're a Jane. Woo! You're a Jane.
I'm just, your average Jane. Okay, so I want to say this. Everyone may have different abilities, right? You may actually be tapped into something where you can see some sort of alien or interdimensional being or something, and I just can't. Maybe it's like not even in my DNA that I can even experience this thing, right? Maybe it's like that. All of us, though, can agree that, if I'm holding a black cup, it's a black cup, and that's kind of like what I've got to work with. And one of the biggest problems in science is the explanatory gap, which is like where we can't bridge the gap between like conscious experience and the actual scientific method. We have no way of doing that, right? So like when I go to like parse through all of these UFO stories and all these claims or whatever, like the only way that I can really communicate to everybody information that they'll understand is if I stick to the material. And I wish there was a better way to do that. And I wish there was a better way to verify, but heck if I know.
What's the most important aspect of it all?
Of UFOs and aliens? Or just
yes.
Most important aspect. I think it puts us in our place. I think it kind of scares us, and I think it should. I think that humans are really full of themselves, and they think that, they're top tier, top of the line. I wrote this piece on plant intelligence and the evidence we have for that, the scientific evidence we have for that. And in my journey through writing that, I happened across this book of wisdom from 1509 by this guy named Charles de Bovell. And in that book, there was something called the Pyramid of Living Things. And this basically set the scene for the way humans look at plants and animals. And so humans were on the top of the pyramid. They're the most intelligent, most conscious. Then came animals, then plants, then rocks. And now, plants at one point were considered like barely even aware of anything. And now we're learning that they have like their own versions of all 5 human senses, that they can make decisions, that they can like hear and see in their own ways and choose. And it's just crazy to me that like for so long we had this particular perspective. So I guess my point is that
your point is the vegans had it wrong. That's your point that you're making right there. The vegans had it wrong.
The vegans had it wrong. You heard it here first, folks. But yeah, ultimately it's just like humans, I think, need to consider the fact that there could be other life out there, intelligent life, and not just aliens, but also on Earth, that plants could, even though they don't look like us, they could possess intelligence and consciousness. And, Stefano Mancuso, he's this botanist, this plant scientist. He makes the point that if we can't even recognize intelligent life in plants because they're so different from us, how will we ever recognize intelligent life from another planet if it comes to visit? Like, because our heads will be up our butts so much because it's like, oh, they don't have, a brain and a heart and all these other things, so they can't possibly be capable of consciousness. So yeah, that was a roundabout way of saying the most important thing is us being put in our place.
Okay, so there is a great divide between UFOs, UAP, whatever anagram you want to use for them, and aliens.
Mm-hmm.
What is your thought? Should we be dividing the two?
Honestly, I'm going to say you should look at everything on a case-by-case basis. So in terms of UFOs, in Hawaii, they saw some lights over the sky, right? That kind of looked blue and like a little bit wormy. And they could have been like this, glow light kite, right? That's a whole lot different than like when the guys in the military came out with those videos and like the Navy published those videos of the craft that could spin around and like dive into water and stuff. They're not even comparable, right? Those are like two completely different things. One is like way more like legitimate and convincing versus, a blue worm in the sky or whatever. So I think that the same can be said for aliens, right? I think that if we're looking at alien stories, we should evaluate those based on their believability. And then in terms of meshing the two, the UFOs and the aliens, we can't really even know, like, let's say we looked at the New York Times stuff, like, unless we actually can pull an alien out of that thing, then I think we should keep them separate. Like, we don't know if they're aliens. It could be, who knows, maybe there really is, a brilliant, scientist or engineer on Earth who has figured out how to do this, and we're all going to be at war. Like, who knows? So yeah, I would say keep them separate, but stay interested and be willing to put them together if the evidence surfaces.
See, I see something different from that.
Okay.
I think that there is a big debate on whether or not people on this planet, because this will affect everybody on this planet. Mm-hmm. I think there is a big debate going on from the head honchos to the military trying to think, okay, can people handle seeing UFOs? Well, yes, because we can always disguise them as being our technology, worst case scenario. Mm-hmm. But the minute you bring in aliens, that we are being visited, we don't know how they're getting here, allegedly. We don't know where they're coming from, allegedly. Mm-hmm. That's going to scare a lot of people on this planet, at least half of this planet, minimum. Mm-hmm. And the implications on that are probably pretty dangerous because we're a pretty unstable society. Mm-hmm. We like, as you stated, I'll use your words, we like to kill things.
Yeah, it's true.
We're good at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm going with it.
Well, I mean, I think that, yeah, we're scared. I would say we're scared of things not because we know anything about them. We're scared of things because we know ourselves. And if we assume that intelligent life is going to be anything like us, then we must destroy it. Like, that's the perspective. But really, like, I would hope in a dream world that these aliens that manage to, even live among us or visit us or whatever, that they would be, I don't know, a little bit more evolved, a little bit more, understand how the universe works and like know that you're not supposed to like, conquer and mutilate and fight or whatever. To me, I just think if they figured out a way to get here and to be like this slick for this long, I just feel like they wouldn't be, I don't know, dangerous in the way that we might think. I think they'd be more enlightened. Buddhist aliens.
Buddhist aliens. Well, I mean, if anal probing is real, I don't think there's much Buddhism involved with that.
Who knows what a Buddhist does in the bedroom?
True. But, I mean, do you think fear plays a big part in what we are doing with this topic?
Oh, yeah. I think that, I think there's fear of what people will think, the people who don't believe. You don't want to be considered like crazy or not credible when these things are reported on. There's also, it would really mess with a lot of people's religions, that, aliens can't exist. Oh, crap, they do. That would be nuts. But also just like, I mean, we can't even handle a pandemic.
Okay, what are you hoarding when the aliens come? Because COVID's got toilet paper. What are you hoarding?
Oh, good question. Let's see. Well, I think I would want to hoard something that the aliens like. Like maybe, what was it, M&Ms or something? I would want to have a bunch of M&Ms so that when the aliens come to my home, I can be like, oh, I'm your friend, and just give like a bunch of M&Ms to the aliens.
I am going with anything the late Wilfred Brimley was trying to advertise. So, what was that cereal that he used to advertise? I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't know. I'm going with that.
All right. Well, we'll see who survives, baby.
We will see. Krissy Eliot is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We got about 90 seconds before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. What story do you think we are missing here when it comes to the entire UFO field?
Oh, what story do I think we're missing? I would actually like to see more about the stories around ESP and aliens and UFOs. I don't see that reported on that much. And I would be fascinated to see like more developments on that.
Do you think there is some sort of consciousness labeled with that?
Consciousness labeled with aliens?
Yeah. Because there is a lot of intrigue into that subject, both on a governmental side and on a research side.
Yeah, but are they? Well, my question for you would be like, are they publishing about that regularly in news publications, or is that just like? Because I don't see that very much.
Grant Cameron is doing a lot of work with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You got to realize there's not a lot being published about it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed or not, but.
Well, for me, I guess that was my point, is that like what I feel is really missing is like more people like doing that. Yeah. I mean, I honestly wouldn't even know. There's just so little I actually know about aliens, or that anybody really knows about aliens. I don't even know what's missing.
Well, apparently some people don't know either, and it is happening. But we're going to get back with Krissy Eliot, journalist covering everything fringe. I love it. We're having a great conversation tonight. When we come back, I want to get her opinion on how the mainstream has covered the UFO topic. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, we're clear.
Cool.
All right, Greco, ask her the questions. Which questions do you want me to ask? I've only seen one recently regarding, that's Gnome Squatch, so I don't know what questions. If you guys have questions, as soon as we come back from break, post them, and I will ask Krissy the questions. You know how this works. You know how it works? Oh, those questions. Krissy, questions for you. We ask every new guest this.
Okay.
What's your opinion of eating breakfast for dinner?
Oh, I love it. And particularly pancakes. All day long, baby. No, there's no perfect time for breakfast, and there's no not perfect time for breakfast. You just have breakfast whenever the spirit moves you.
You are way too young to answer that question.
What am I missing?
It's breakfast foods for a reason.
I'm a rebel. What can I say? I'll have a sub at 8 a.m. I don't care.
Well, you should. If you're when I was 25, I was having everything to cure the hangover.
That's true.
All right. All right. Second question. Devil's Tower. Are you on Team Stump or are you on Team Rock?
I'm going to say that I don't have any clue what that is.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Remember the movie?
I remember the movie.
Okay,
yeah,
where they go to land and they're in Wyoming at Devil's Tower.
Okay, I'm going to say Rock. Paper, scissors.
This interview is done. Troy wants to know In-N-Out Burger or Five Guys?
Oh, Five Guys all the way. In-N-Out, honestly, so overrated. Their fries suck. The sauce isn't that good.
You just want the free peanuts.
Five Guys is so much better.
I'm more of a Five Guys.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm more of a Five Guys. Let's see, what else do we got here? Hi, Princess Denali. How are you? The official princess of Spaced Out Radio. Redheaded Lisa. Good to have you here. All right, hold on. Got to do this. You know, it is that time of the night once again where I have to tell you, why does my beard look so good? Why? It's because of my Mighty Moose beard oil that I use, made out of all-natural oils by Gary the Dutchman. And hey, remember, Gary the Dutchman is Dutch, but he is giving you a deal. And it's hard to get a deal out of a Dutchman. Trust me, I know all too well. But Gary's giving you a deal if you use SOR 2019 as your promo code. Just drop that in your hands right there. All right? Massage it into your hands, and then massage it into your beard. That's it. That's all you do. And that's what I do to take care of it. And for the ladies out there, just so you know, all right, you take the rest and you rub it through your hair because it helps keep your hair moisturized, proper oils, and helps with split ends. That's it. That's it. That's all you do. Good. I'm done right there. I'm done right there. MightyMooseBeard.com. Tell Gary the Dutchman that Dave sent you by using promo code SOR 2019. And remember, all product are in Canadian funds, which means like $20 American will be like, I don't know, 15 Canadian or something like that. Or $20 Canadian will be like 15 American. So make sure you do that. Hey, look who it is. My Zoe Buttercup had the cutest smile. Cute Zoe Buttercup, won't you stay a while? Hi, Zoe. Yeah. $1 off with the SOR 2019 code. Gary the Dutchman puts it right in the chat room right there. God, I look good now. Look how good my beard looks.
Ow, ow.
Woo. Oh, by the way, we're getting more requests for your woo.
Oh, yeah. Woo, woo.
There you go, people. That's a professional woo right there.
That's right. All business all the time. Woo, woo.
Uh-huh. Gary, you're Dutch, just so you know. And we're going to get going here in like 10 seconds. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with journalist Krissy Eliot tonight on the show. We're talking UFOs for the time being. Her website, hotalien.com. If you want to check out her blog, I highly suggest you do. So let's get to it. Krissy, I'm curious, in the way the mainstream media has handled this topic of UFOs, I think over the last couple of years they've done a great job. We don't hear the X-Files music anymore. We don't hear the Twilight Zone theme song. We don't have the journalists, especially on television, throwing back to the anchors, and the anchors giving some snide, really bad pun about the subject. How have you felt, though, in a critical eye, how the mainstream has covered this?
I think that, so the mainstream media has definitely warmed up to UFOs, I would say. I recall seeing a headline in the Washington Post that was just UFOs exist and everybody needs to adjust to that fact. It was something along those lines. And I think that now, before everyone was like, UFOs just aren't a thing. But now we have actual evidence, we have video, and we have credible people coming out and saying that they exist. So, I mean, the media and journalists, they have no choice but to report on this and acknowledge that UFOs are real. Now, of course, they're very careful about associating UFOs with aliens still. There isn't a huge belief technically in aliens. But they're willing to acknowledge the possibility now, and they're even willing to talk about theories. Was it Raymond Duvall and Alexander Wendt? They published this study or gave a talk, and they basically said that, if aliens were to be real, then that means we would have to grapple with our ideas about humans being the most technologically advanced, right? And the fact that these conversations are now being had in the mainstream media is very exciting, because it's calling people out on their fears and crap.
Okay, one of the things that I noticed about the mainstream and their coverage, which I thought was very good, but it really seems like they're treating this UFO phenomena like it's brand new. Like it's only been since the 2004 Nimitz incident that this whole phenomena has started. And anything previous to that, from Roswell forward, hasn't existed yet. Is that the mainstream media dropping the ball on the subject because they've never wanted this story? Or is it because they are only going with what this topic is now and why it's a hot button topic now?
So are you asking basically everything before recently was kind of ridiculous, but now that things are starting to fall into place more, it's
not at all. No.
Okay.
No, what I'm asking is we haven't heard any journalists or reporters covering this subject from Tucker Carlson on down. Okay, even the New York Times articles, they never got into Roswell. They never got into Kecksburg or even the Phoenix Lights looking for answers and asking these people from Lou Elizondo to Chris Mellon to government agents about what happened there. Everything seems to be just focused on the Nimitz moving forward.
Right. Well, I guess so. Yeah. So then, my question to you was, I guess what my answer would be, which is that this is the more compelling evidence that we've had over time, I guess I would say, in terms of like journalism and credible people sort of coming out in support. So I think the reason that people are jumping on the bandwagon and they're not really looking back into that stuff is because that stuff is still kind of considered ridiculous. I guess that would be my answer.
Should we not be asking, for instance, I'll throw an example up here. When the Pentagon came out last summer and stated, yes, we have been searching for UFOs for a number of decades, not a single journalist asked about Roswell. Not a single journalist asked about Kecksburg, Shag Harbor, the Marfa Lights, the Phoenix Lights, anything like that. They didn't ask about Travis Walton. They didn't ask about Betty and Barney Hill or any of these stories that have caught the attention of ufology over the last 70 years. But let's keep away from the abduction side of everything and just stick with UFOs. Not a single question was asked about, okay, if you've been doing this for 70 years, what about Roswell? What happened there? Mm-hmm. Is that a detriment to the coverage or the journalists not knowing really how to cover a topic on a story that they've never wanted?
I think it could be a little both. My instinct is when those stories broke, you're dealing with a big story, and you really want to focus on that story and all the details you can get around that and not distract too much from it. I wasn't actually aware that nobody was asking those questions. To me, they would seem obvious to ask. At the time, I wasn't reporting on weird stuff, so I wasn't really, couldn't speak on their motivations then. But my instinct is just that, you don't want to be, as a journalist, you want to get the story, but you don't want to be antagonistic, and you don't want to completely turn a really good and intriguing story into, I guess, a crusade for something, especially if the topic is so touchy.
But isn't that what investigative journalism is all about?
Certainly. But remember, we had this conversation about how a lot of journalists aren't really swinging for the fences. But again, I understand how difficult it is for people out there, scientists, journalists, academics. I get it. I'm straddling I'm a total freak, I do whatever I want / journalist, academic kind of, I'm trying to bridge it.
No, and I understand that, but at some point, though, you have to do your job. The
Mm-hmm.
job of journalism is to ask questions. And if you're only asking questions about the Nimitz and cases since the Nimitz in 2004, that means you really either don't have a knowledge of what happened previously, or you don't know the story well enough to go deep into it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Oh, I was just going to say, a lot of reporters, too, now are general interest, and they say, okay, you have 2 days to write a story on this. Go. And then they just have to go, read all night long or whatever and do the interview and then turn around a story in, very short amount of time. Sometimes it's just a night. So that's also a possibility. Yeah, they may not have known.
Ignorance?
Mm-hmm.
Is it ignorance?
Could be. Yeah. It's hard. I mean, it's hard for me. Again, I always try to look at everything on a case by case basis, and I would have to really evaluate an article to see if it was being unfair. Who knows? Maybe their editor was like, "You've got 800 words."
That's not much.
Yeah, you got 800 words. Go.
Okay, so let's focus on you. The stories that you've written about ufology, mm-hmm. and the stories that you've heard, whether it's about lights in the sky or whether it's about people being taken, which road do you find important to write on, and why have you followed that topic?
So my favorite thing to write about regarding UFOs is what they mean to us and what UFOs do to our culture. So, for example, there's this theory that Terence McKenna has that UFOs are actually hallucinations, and it's the universe trying to tell us that we're on the wrong path with rationalism and science. That science and rationalism have become so pervasive that we're no longer in touch with our what he calls like our divine feminine, our like more emotional selves. And that, so now when we're seeing things that science can't explain, such as UFOs and Bigfoot or whatever, it's actually just manifestations of our consciousness, like trying to shake our foundations and change our ways. Of course, his solution was take psychedelics. Psychedelics will, teach you everything, and then you'll stop hallucinating UFOs. But I think those kinds of things and those ideas about the folklore and the way people interact with the aliens is really compelling.
What would happen if someone like Lou Elizondo came out and said, look, you can't have one without the other. It's not UAP over here and aliens over there. They're one of the same. What do you think the impact to the UFO community would that be?
What do I think the impact would be? I don't want to say chaos. I want to say, I you know what? Of the people that I know that I've talked to, I would just say excitement. That's what I would say. I don't necessarily like, when I envision this kind of stuff, I really don't know if things are going to go good or bad or crazy or calm. It's really hard for, it's just this journalist in me. I'm just like, I don't have the information, so I can't tell you. It's so hard. I'm trying to wildly speculate for you. But I'm kind of crapping the bed on that.
I understand that, but I think that the segregation point, I know we've already discussed that, but I think if they ever brought the two subjects together, it would be, I agree with you. I don't think from the politicians on down that they would know how to handle that outside of them knowing from a top secret point of view.
Well, I mean, I guess, here, let me just ask you the question. What do you think would happen?
I think there would be a lot of people denying it. There would be a lot of people who immediately either jump on the Elizondo bandwagon or jump off the bandwagon. I believe that the scientific community would go haywire. I believe the mainstream public wouldn't care because there's no aliens landing on the White House lawn. And, getting that specialized coffee at Starbucks or their microbrewery IPA is way more important than some guy who ran a top secret program at the Pentagon coming out and saying, by the way, aliens are here. You know what I'm saying? I think it would be a real mixed bag.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just like that with everything. I mean, it's like with the Bigfoot stuff, right? I mean, people are already at odds. If you do something else, they're just going to still be at odds. It's just like nobody's ever going to agree. Not until we reach some sort of collective enlightenment, maybe after the singularity, when we're all machine-human hybrids.
Okay, well, let's change the topic on this a little bit. Same topic, kind of a different path. What do you think has to be done, both reporting-wise and let's stick with the reporting-wise, in order to get the mainstream public to understand that this is an extremely important topic that they should be paying attention to?
Yeah. Well, I would say you have to start paying more credence to the reports, even if they seem like they might seem insane. I think that people will approach those who have seen UFOs, like regular people who send in their videos, like often they're made fun of. I think that would have to stop, especially now that we are 100% for sure in society that UFOs are real. I think that more empathy needs to emerge in the reporting. And I think that we need to see more stories and more first-person experiences. I would like to see that.
is the public ready for those first-person experiences? I mean, they are on cable television. That's why this type of programming is some of the highest-rated programming ever over the last 15 years. The public wants it, but there's a difference between watching it on so-called reality TV and having it all of a sudden front and center in your daily lives. Look, plagues have been around for centuries. We all know that plagues come around every few, every century or so. And look at the way we've handled this. We haven't been too, we've been a little careless, to put it in proper English. Right? So how are we going to react?
Well, I don't know if they would ever put a first person account on a front page for anything. I think that they might. What I'm saying is they should start integrating it more into the body of the pieces, right? I think that would be a good way to slowly integrate and get people more comfortable with discussing these kinds of things. I mean, I think it's really brave that people in the military came out and said, like, this really happened and we saw this and we don't know what it is. I think that's insanely brave.
But in the UFO community, sorry for cutting you off, there is a great number in the UFO community who think those guys are full of bunk.
Well, that's, again, it all just comes back to opinion. Everybody's got an opinion on something. And, people sit around and criticize constantly, but it's like, this is a step forward for you. Just be happy about it. Before this wasn't even a thing. It's like, not everything's going to happen perfectly. In fact, nothing happens perfectly. So just like, be glad. We're making a step forward. One small step for man, I guess.
That's one way to put it. Do you have a favorite UFO story that you've written about that you'd like to share?
A favorite one? Not really. Honestly, well, you know what? Wait, maybe that's not true. I would say that my favorite UFO stories are around the UFOs that are over fires, because I think that's really compelling. Like there was like the Woolsey fire in LA. It was in like 2018, I think. And like there was this object that just like looked like it was going by in the background, right? It was going really fast. It was really big, and none of the reporters recording the fire from the helicopter said anything about this thing going by. And when you look at it, it's going like way too fast to not be some sort of like craft of some sort, right? And then I know that somebody called in and asked I can't remember what network it was that was covering it, but they asked, they're like, what is that thing? And they said, oh, it's just a ship. It was just the angle. It was actually over water. But it was strange because you actually couldn't figure out like how that could have been over water and like how nobody could have noticed it, right? And then also like UFOs, like the Tic Tac UFOs kind of like going in and out of clouds, right? Over fires, like you sort of catch them sort of going by. To me, that's really freaky, because that like if aliens were real, if UFO or even if aliens weren't real and we had this like unidentified craft like flying over and starting fires, especially now with everything that's happening in California and whatnot, that's scary. That is freaky.
Sovereign is asking if you know anything about the UFO over the Jesuita fire in Santa Barbara that purportedly started the fire.
No, I didn't hear about that one. But now I know. I could, even if I did, I couldn't tell you if it was real or not. But that is very spooky. Thank you for letting me know.
See, I am of the opinion that, I'm not sure what's happening. We see a lot of UFOs around volcanoes. That has been seen everywhere there's volcanic activity. Even if the volcanoes are dormant, they seem to be flying around. I mean, that's where the majority of the sightings are along the West Coast, from Alaska straight down to Mexico. So do you think that maybe, just maybe, they're looking at it as a power supply, or as, is it just coincidence that they happen to be seen over these volcanoes? There's people who think that volcanoes maybe have some sort of portal action.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll give you the scientist answer. So I know that a lot of these UFOs reported around volcanoes and mountainous areas are cloaked in clouds. And I know people have the idea that alien technology would be able to manipulate the atmosphere to disguise themselves in the clouds as these saucer shapes. But actually, the way that the wind blows and gets sucked up and everything, the way that is around mountains and volcanoes, it forms something called lenticular clouds. So you're actually seeing these shapes that look like UFOs, but probably aren't. And they happen a lot around mountains and volcanoes. So who knows if it is real, and aliens are real and they are hovering around it. I mean, I can't even fathom how they use it as a power source. What are they doing? What's the actual process? I would love to know more about that. But yeah, I don't know.
I just want to know if they're being taxed on the fuel. Because if they're not, we're getting ripped off. That's just my opinion.
These are the questions, important questions.
These are the important questions out there. But if in everything that you've read about it, as we got about a minute and a half to go before we go to break at the top of the hour, do you think they are a threat? That's another big debate for the UFO field, is the threat phenomena.
I think UFOs are for sure a threat, because even if they aren't aliens, we don't know what they are, and they seem to be flying in areas that are very populated. So I would say that we should be concerned about what they could do to us, for sure.
But they haven't harmed us yet.
They have not, except, of course, for the people who say they've been probed in the anus.
Well, I'm not saying that every alien is a good alien. There are the Marvin the Martians out there that want to use their Pu-36 space modulator to blow up our planet.
Sure.
I get that, and we do have those who seem to have a vested interest in human anatomy, namely the butthole, right? But when we look at it, and maybe we'll take this into the break, when we look at it, we don't know, maybe because we've never seen the stats, we don't know if there's been anybody killed by UFOs. We don't know if any military aircraft have been attacked. There's rumors of it, but until it comes out, we really don't know. And that is, all subject for speculation. And that's all we have to go by. Chrissy, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. We have Krissy Eliot for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. In hour 3, we'll continue on with our UFO talk. We'll see what other weird stories she's got into when we come back, along with the SOR News Wire and the Thought of the Dave. Spaced Out Radio continues with hour 3 next. All right, we're clear? I'm just going to run my dogs outside. I'll be right back, okay?
Okay.
We like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at mightymoosebeard.com today.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckford, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales.
All right, we're back. We're going to be on in just under 2 minutes here.
Cool.
Hello, Corrance, the booking guy. When we get to the break at the bottom of the hour, just stick with me, if you don't mind, through the break, and then I'll say goodnight to you properly. Cool? Cool. All right, we got 1 minute.
All these people are sending me tweets about sex and aliens.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Thank you, listeners.
Love it, you all. Thank you. We'll have to check these out.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Appreciate the stalking from our crowd here. All right, we're coming back in 15 seconds.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway tonight. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really appreciate earning your listening ears. We welcome in everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Talalgia. Talalgia is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce journalist Krissy Eliot. She is one of the bright young minds covering this field of UFOs, Bigfoot, everything strange in between. You can find her blog and website at hotalien.com if you want to check it on out. Krissy, welcome back.
Hey.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, man.
Strange stories. You've covered a number of them.
Mm-hmm.
Which ones do you enjoy the most?
Oh, that's so hard. Well, I will say one of my favorite weird science stories that I ever reported on was the mind-controlling fly fungus. That one is just so scary to me. So basically, there's this fungus, and the scientific name for it is something like Entomophthora muscae, I believe is how you say it. And it's Greek for the destroyer of insects. And basically what happens is it's this cream-colored like schmutz that sort of attaches itself to the body of a fly. And then it takes over the fruit fly's brain, okay, and nervous system. So within about 2 days of infection, it starts eating all of the fatty tissue and starving the fly from the inside out, okay? And then all of these like fat stores are absorbed by the fungi, and then the destroyer, that's what we're calling it, you know, this this fungus, it eats all of the organs, and then the creepiest thing about it is that it makes all of the flies go up to the highest point that they can find, like a tree, like branch, leaf, whatever, so that the fly will bend over, open up its wings above itself, and then the fungus will explode out of its back, and then the spores will be able to fall all over the place. And so the fungus knows how to control the fly and control the fly's mind so that all of the flies do the exact same thing and fly up to the top and have it explode out of their backs with their wings up. That is so scary to me, but it is one of the coolest, most metal things I've ever heard. I just thought that was such an amazing, amazing thing. And that's real. That's like a legit thing, you know. Yeah.
Okay, so when you're looking for weird, odd stories to cover now like that, is it about finding the balance of information, or is it about telling the wild story around the world around us?
Well, honestly, I mean, when I sit down to write everything, I always try to be balanced. But really, I mean, I'm interested in good stories and things that I find interesting. I don't really want to write about stuff that doesn't make me like want to get up in the morning. I mean, you know, we all have to do that to a certain extent. We do things for money that are boring all of the time, right? But I really do try to tackle topics that help to change our perspectives on things and, not necessarily instill fear, but like to go, oh my God, that's really metal. I guess I'm just always looking for the most metal story I can possibly find.
Okay, so if we take it from an alternative view of UFOs, Bigfoot, is there a story that you want to cover that you have heard that you just want to get to the bottom to?
Yeah, so actually recently I saw some murmurs around the internet that you should be able to like test the oil from a Bigfoot's handprint, and that would for sure prove Bigfoot to be real. And I looked into it a little bit, and it is possible to test, test fingerprints. It is possible. However, it's like, from what I understand, it's really hard to actually glean a perfect understanding of what the creature would be. So I would love to get more into that and get more into the science of how that could actually work. I think people that are, boots on the ground that are out there who really want to be able to collect this evidence and send it to scientists, I think these are the kinds of stories that really need to be covered so that we can better connect scientists with researchers.
Okay, but is there a UFO story, a Bigfoot story, a consciousness or paranormal story out there that you want to look into? Are you asking me like a story that's woo, like a woo story? Sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say the I guess I would want to look more into this transdimensional stuff and see if there is actually any scientific evidence from what we know in science, if there could actually be like a bridgeable gap with that. I know that book just recently came out on the topic, but I looked into it a bit and I still am not 100% convinced, but that doesn't mean that I don't think that more needs to be done about it. Just in general in paranormal, I think that there's a lot of research, scientific research that's actually going towards ESP. And I know the Institute of Noetic Sciences is doing a lot with that, and it's often ignored, these studies. So I would love to illuminate them and then get other scientists' opinions on those kinds of things. I would say that those two things are what I'm most interested in. Oh, also, I'm very interested in the Invisible College. I think that would be really cool to even these guys are supposed to be anonymous, right? But it's like even to really delve deeply into that and see what their perspectives are and do like a great big piece on that and what's to come in the future with how we look at science and how we maneuver around it. I think that's really exciting. I think that's very cool.
One of the things I know you're interested in is the psychedelics that people are using in regards to trying to communicate with extraterrestrials or other higher dimensional beings. Do you really think that we should be using these type of drugs, whether it's LSD going old school or ayahuasca, which is more of a popular thing to do now because it's a little bit more natural? And are we actually communicating with our higher selves, or are we just on one really good trip?
Well, that's the big question, right? It's like a lot of people have like similar experiences when they're on certain kinds of, mushrooms or psychedelics. Like I think there's this one particular being, it's like this black being, almost like a goo, like lava thing that a lot of people will see during their trips. And some people think like, oh, that's like an alien or some sort of spiritual being, but it could just be that particular mushroom or that particular, psychedelic makes you see this particular thing. I always like to bring up this one funny story I had read a while ago about all these raccoons that ate the same berries, and like they all got really high on these berries and they had all the same behavior. It's like nobody is sitting around saying like these raccoons had some sort of experience with some sort of ethereal being. They're just like, they were high on berries, right? It's like, would we apply the same thing to us? Now, I think it's very possible that psychedelics could be a way to allow us to connect better with the whole universe, right? Because those are generally about kind of an ego death, where we see ourselves as, not separate. We're all like one thing, and we're all experiencing one thing, depending on the trip, of course. I think that could illuminate certain things for us. I do believe that. But again, just my opinion, y'all.
Well, I guess that's one way to look at it, but there are dangers to it too, because we don't know what the side effects are to each and every person. Everybody's going to handle it differently. Yet there seems to be a collective consciousness out there that believes that in order to communicate with aliens or to find that spiritual zen that we are all searching for in the meaning of life, you have to be taking these narcotics to get there.
Yeah, well, I would say no. You don't have to use drugs in order to get to a certain, under enlightenment or technically an ego death. That's not always the way. There are other practices that you can do, and I think one of the reasons meditation is growing in popularity is because people are realizing that they can connect with, a more spiritual state, a more enlightened state, just by breathing and being aware of where they are in the universe. It doesn't necessarily have to be you imagining a black lava monster, in order to understand your place in the universe.
Okay. So do you think, though, that the way people are talking about using this, that we should be investigating, whether even on a scientific level, that we should be trying these out to see where we can go or what we can learn from a higher being or a higher entity?
Terence McKenna said that psychedelics will teach us about the universe the way a microscope allows scientists to get a closer look at whatever it is they're focusing on. That's what he thinks. That's what he believes. My whole perspective on this is just to each their own. And for example, okay, I have never taken psychedelics and would probably freak out. I have a feeling I wouldn't do too well with them because I'm a very anxious person. And so maybe if I took psychedelics, my whole perspective on UFOs would be like, oh, they definitely can't be real or whatever, right? I just don't know. Dave, I wish I had better answers, and I wish I knew. I just don't know.
I can tell you this, with some of my experiences that I've had personally, I wish I was high to take them away or to enjoy them a little bit more. See, maybe I'm in the minority here, but I don't think you need the psychedelics at all. I really don't, because I think it's in each and every one of us to be able to have that type of communication if you want it. You just have to have something that sparks it. It's much like a vehicle engine. There has to be a spark in order to make it run.
What is the what do you think the spark is? Is it just paranormal experience? Is that all?
That I don't know. Mm-hmm. That I really don't know. I know for me, it was seeing the angel of death in my mother's eyes. And that was the catalyst to make everything start. Mm-hmm. And I think, we hear a lot of people where all of a sudden they have something traumatic happened to them, maybe a death in the family, or maybe they're in a car accident, or maybe they have a near-death experience where all of a sudden everything opens up. But that doesn't account for a lot of people who claim that, look, I'm a psychic because my mother was psychic, my grandmother was psychic, my great-grandfather was psychic, and it's been passed down the timeline. Same with ET contact, where we hear about these abductions. I know there's a case here in British Columbia with a lady named Corina Sables where, she started being abducted, then her daughters started being abducted, now her grandchildren are being abducted. So is there something to these lines of these bloodlines of this phenomena happening? So I think there's a lot of different ways in order to do it, and I do believe, though, that there are more people like me who just seem to get thrust into this for no apparent reason, or maybe a life-changing experience because we have something to offer that we haven't been able to humanly figure out yet.
Yeah, so I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but to me it wouldn't be insane to think that different people are capable of different things. It's like let's say we said, okay, the universe is one big thing. Let's just say it's one living thing for the sake of this conversation. And humans, just because we are all the same, we're humans, doesn't mean that we all don't serve different functions in this giant universe body. Right? It's like white blood cells do, different things than like red blood cells, and other bacteria and stuff in the body all have their own roles to play, in this, in our bodies. So if you think about humans, to me, it would make sense that maybe I am not going to offer everything that you offer, and I won't have these experiences, but maybe my purpose or maybe my service in life is to be able to talk to you and write about these things so other people listen, and maybe my inability to experience those things, should I have an inability, maybe my inability is actually, it helps. It's good. I like to think about that idea, just because I just don't know if everybody has it. I know that the only people that say that everybody has the ability to tap into it are people that have done it. And so who knows?
What would you do if it happened to you? How do you think you would react?
I think that I think if I had a paranormal experience, I think I would be honest about it, but I think it would take me a while. And I think I would be afraid to talk about it, because I don't want to jeopardize my career. However, I would figure out how to do it in a way that would work. I always figure it out. I am never going to not write something that I want to write, as is evidenced by my career. So if I think something is important and I think it's true and I think people need to know it, they will know it from me.
So what story do you want to write?
Just about what next? Or just what story do I...
We all have that story we want to write.
Uh-huh.
Would it be... Would you want to write a story about alien abduction, which includes an encounter that you have had? Would you want to write that Bigfoot story where maybe you're kidnapped for a week, living with these monstrous creatures, much like Albert Ostman did back in the 1920s, 30s?
I mean, I think it would be really cool to be able to, like, if Bigfoot were real and I could somehow talk to them, I think it would be so cool to be able to have that experience and, like, like record what happened and be on the scene in that way. I think that would be really cool. I think I'm a little scared of aliens. I think I'm more scared of aliens than I am of Bigfoot. Just because I feel like Bigfoot are probably flesh and blood beings of the earth. I feel like I could probably figure them out a bit more. I mean, I think what I would really love to experience is plant communication. I know a lot of people that are very near and dear to me who aren't nuts, and also scientists who say that they've actually had communication with plants, like psychic communication. I think that would be extremely cool. I absolutely love UFOs. I love the topic. But to me, I just think there's so little we actually know about Earth and what it's like to be here, that to me, plants are like alien life. And I want to get to know them, and I want to figure out how to do that. I would do a dieta, which is when you just eat the plant over the course of like a couple months, and all you do is just have the plant and like rice and beans and like not a ton of stimulation. And then the plant just starts talking to you because you're completely getting rid of all the outside stimulation. This is what I'm told. I think that would be a really cool story to write if it worked. Otherwise, it's just like, oh, that's poop.
That's a lot of mushrooms.
That's
a lot of mushrooms. Okay, we only got about 2 minutes left here with you, so I'm going to quickly fire off one final question for you. Mm-hmm. If you could have the smoking gun evidence that aliens are real, Bigfoot is real, and you got that smoking gun video or found a body or something, would you release it to the public?
I would absolutely 100% find every possible way to do so. Yes. No question.
You'd be ready and prepared with your bodyguards in order to receive decades worth of harassment, much like the Patterson Gimlin film.
Yeah, I'm not afraid of sharing evidence that's real. If it's true, it will always come out on top. As much as suppression happens, the truth always wins historically. Like over time, it always does. And I really believe in that, and I believe it's worth fighting for.
30 seconds. Tell everybody where they can find your work.
Hey, all. You can go to ChryssyEliot.com. You can find me on Twitter. Find me on Instagram, Krissy Eliot. You can also find me on Facebook. I'm just Krissy Eliot everywhere. Google me. I'm very Googleable. And also send me all of your tips. I want to know if there are any scoops. I want to report on the cool stuff. Give it to me. Give it to me, baby.
Woo.
Woo.
There you go. Chrissy, I want to say a big thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio. I think you're one of the bright young stars that is going to be able to take this field forward, and we need more of you out there, and I think it's going to benefit the entire UFO, paranormal, cryptid world. Keep up the great work, and I look forward to seeing what you're going to accomplish, because I want to be one of those guys like 10 years down the road that says, I know her. I know her. You know, she won't talk to me now, but I know her. I met her once. She didn't allow me to make eye contact. Krissy Eliot, everyone. Coming up next, we're going to have the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Day. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this.
Nice one.
Great job. Great job. And I mean that. I look forward to big things out of you. The best advice that I could give you, and I don't mind saying it in front of our YouTube channel, is there's a lot of shysters out there, a lot of people who will make you a lot of promises. I know you being involved with Dave Altman, he's going to make sure that you really stay out of those crowds, and he's good for protecting his clients, and I have a lot of time and respect and love and admiration for Dave. But the best advice I could give you, and I've given it to other people who've taken it and other people who have not and end up getting burnt really bad in this field, is just be careful with who you associate with. Mm-hmm. This is an ugly field that is always looking for that next young, beautiful up-and-comer who is potentially going to be a rock star in this field, and they don't give a shit how they quash you. But they've ruined a lot of people. So just I know you're a smart woman, keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, and if there's red flags, just stay away. I will. That's what I've tried to do. But you've got great representation in Dave, and you should be proud of what you've accomplished. I know what you are going to accomplish in this field. So it's written all over you.
Oh, thank you so much. So sweet. Anytime.
And stay in touch. And we will keep working hard together, because there's very few of us true journalists in this field. And stay away from the fake ones. They're easy to find.
Will do.
They're easy to find. Most of them are on television. And, remember, they don't know what the beat is.
They don't.
We got the
beat. We got the beat, Dave.
Tell me about it. I will be your Belinda Carlisle.
Oh, Belinda.
Take care.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye. Nice young lady. Very, very nice young lady. I like her. I think she's smart. I think she's got fantastic reputation building for her. I think that she being involved with somebody like Dave Altman, who is a very, very brilliant representative to many in this community behind the scenes. I think that is massive to have her there, and Dave's representation, somebody I respect a lot of in this field. And I think that once she gets fully established in covering this from a mainstream level, I think that she is going to be an absolute rock star in this field. I just hope she doesn't get burnt out. I hope that she makes sure that she hangs with the right people, so to speak. Hi, Anita Torres. How are you? So, and I know Dave will steer her in the right direction. That's the cool part. I think he's going to do amazing with her. Really do. What do you get, Chris Mo? We get it, Dave. I'm noting your sarcasm, Chris Mo. Hey, MPM, how are you? Welcome to the chat room. Chris, if you came in at the beginning of the show, she actually reminds me a lot of my daughter. And from like this part up, her and my daughter look like twins. Oob to Joe's Maine, you've got aliens. No BS on that. No BS on that. Hey, Devin, how you doing, man? We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. I want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Speaking of the news, let's get to it, shall we? The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the controversial. Social media companies that censor users or remove posts for ideological reasons could soon face giant fines in Poland in the world first attempt to curb the power of big tech through legislation. The architect of the law, Deputy Polish Justice Minister Sebastian Kaleta, said social media companies have for too long been targeting conservatives, Christianity, and traditional values by banning them and removing posts, and the Polish government saying it's enough. We see that when big tech decides to remove content for political purposes, it's mostly content which is praising traditional values or praises conservatism, he said, and it is deleted under their hate speech policy when it has no legal right to do so. Under the new legislation, any platform that bans a user would face fines of up to $13.5 million unless the content is also illegal under Polish law. An arbitration committee would be set to oversee these disputes. Tech companies had reached the point to where they were deciding what was legal and what was not, but that was not their role, according to Kaleta. Freedom of speech is not something that anonymous moderators working for private corporations should decide, he said. Instead, that is for the national body, duly elected officials, and all industries, cars, phones, finance, were unregulated until they grew too large. The same should happen to big tech. He added that the removal of former U.S. President Donald Trump from social media platforms was just another example of big tech overreach and set a dangerous precedent. It is very disturbing because big tech sees themselves as an organization empowered enough to ban a sitting president of the United States. It sends a message to the world that we can ban anyone whenever we want. Poland spent 45 years under communism, and Kaleta said that that experience has taught it the value of free speech, and that when a country sees these disturbing new trends towards censorship, the red light goes on. Meanwhile, in India, social media is also being curbed by the government, but in a very different way. Twitter has caved to the demands of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and removed 500 accounts that were being critical of his leadership during recent protests. Twitter relented after its employees in India were threatened with arrest. Moving on, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, a California woman's ID photo says a lot about life during the pandemic. 25-year-old Leslie Pilgrim was issued an identification card from the California DMV with a photo of her wearing her mask. I was thinking that there's just no way that this could qualify as legal identification, Pilgrim said. Pilgrim visited the DMV in Laguna Hills in early February to apply for a real ID card, a driver's license or ID card that is also federally accepted as form of identification. The DMV requires applicants for a real ID to go in person to present the necessary documentation, according to their website. Pilgrim said the agency was very strict about its social distancing protocols. It was honestly really intimidating, she said. Immediately when I got there, I was like, oh my gosh, I better not break any of these rules because they are going to send me back to the back of the line. Seeking to be careful, Pilgrim was very mindful not to remove her mask without being told to do so. She said when she finally got in front of the line, the DMV took her photo twice, once with her mask on and once without it. Leslie Pilgrim was issued a real ID with a photo of her wearing her mask. Portions of this of the photo used, of course, have been blurred out on social media. The DMV actually did take 2 photos, she said, one with my mask on, one without it, and then somehow it got lost in their process and they sent the masked photo. In an emailed statement to the media, the California DMV stated that the mask photo was a mistake. Customers are asked to remove their face mask when the photo is taken. In this instance, there was an oversight. The customer should have been asked to lower her mask for the photo. The agency said it is investigating how this may have happened and that the ID is valid even though the mask was not removed for the photo. The DMV contacted the customer and an appointment has been rescheduled for a new photo to be taken. A hunter says she's been getting death threats after she posted photos of herself posing with dead animals. 23-year-old Johanna Claremont has received abuse online for her posts, which show her posing with the carcasses of animals she's killed all over the world, including antelope in South Africa and deer in Scotland, where she posed with blood on her face as part of an ancient tradition. But the student, who is from France, is defiant, saying she wants to bring a bit of feminine glamour to the normally male-dominated world of hunting. Although she says, despite the macho image associated with hunting, she's never experienced any sexism from men while out on hunts. Describing the first time she killed an animal, Joanna said, "I thought I was going to feel guilty, but I didn't feel guilty because I felt like it was something very natural. My first animal was a wild boar, and it didn't suffer. And when I saw it dead, I was like, yes, okay, that's the way life is, and that's the way nature goes." She added, "It's not a hard moment. It's more of a moment when you think about a lot about life." Joanna went on to say that after starting the hunting, that she thought a lot about what I did, but it was not like sadness or something like that. It was a positive emotion. She added, like, if I wanted to eat meat nowadays, you could go to the shop and buy some pieces of meat, and you do not know what's really in it. When you go hunting and kill for your own food, yes, there is the pleasure that you feel. It's natural, it's organic, and the food tastes great. Johanna said that learning to skin and cook animals has been part of the journey and says it is something essential when learning how to hunt. As such, she eats almost everything of what she hunts, and she shares her food with family and friends. She has more than 300,000 followers on her social media pages. She said you can go hunting and be pretty, brush your hair, wear a bit of makeup, and if you want, you can care about your clothes. I think you can be glamorous in hunting. Of course, the practice in itself is not glamorous because going into nature to kill animals to eat is not glamorous. But in your attitude when you go hunting, yes, of course, you can be glamorous. Let's all be glamorous while hunting in the forest. You know, there's a big difference. And look, I'm not a trophy hunter supporter whatsoever. I don't like it when these people go up into Canada or Alaska and go hunting for giant grizzly bears, trophy bears as they call them, or elephants or lions or anything of that nature, rhinoceroses. I get that, but there is a real difference between trophy hunting and hunting for food. All right? There's a big difference. I have no problem with somebody hunting for food. All right? A lot of the times, it's a lot more humane than the way processed meat is made and farming animals is taken care of. Look, we've seen the nightmare videos of how some of those animals are treated. You know, so we got to be careful with that. We definitely got to be careful with that. Cocaine weighing 2,300 kilograms and with an estimated value of 184 million pounds has been found inside a consignment of bananas that arrived in the United Kingdom from Colombia. The haul of cocaine was intercepted in Portsmouth, and the drugs were removed, according to the National Crime Agency. The pallets were then loaded with dummy packages and delivered to Tottenham Industrial Estate in North London. 10 people have been arrested over the haul, which represents one of the United Kingdom's biggest ever drug seizures. The NCA said 3 people have been charged. The raid was a joint operation between the NCA and the Met Police and was a culmination of a week-long investigation following intelligence received by detectives. Man, there's a lot of partygoers going to be upset with this. Officers tracked the shipment of drugs on 41 pallets as it arrived in Portsmouth, where the UK Border Force officers removed the cocaine. The pallets were then delivered to Tottenham. Police once they moved in, enough evidence had been gathered from a surveillance operation at the site. Body-worn footage showed officers breaking into storage units where the drugs had been due to be delivered. The Met's Deputy Superintendent, Simon Mooring, believes the officers have cost organized criminals more than $100 million in profits. He said by the time that's divided down into deals, we could be talking about 5 million drug deals. That's 5 million deals taken off the streets of the UK that will have a profound effect on the price in the UK and the criminals involved. Wow. That's a lot of drugs. Let's just be honest. That is a lot of drugs. That's a lot of party animals that are going to be crying too. Oh my goodness. U.S. scientists have successfully cloned a highly endangered black-footed ferret using DNA from an identical animal that had been frozen since 1988. The birth of the ferret, named Elizabeth Ann, was announced by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The cloning is a first for a U.S. endangered species. Once thought to be extinct, all black-footed ferrets are descended from 7 ancestors that were found in 1981. Scientists say the clone will help increase the population's gene pool. Elizabeth Ann's birth on December 10th was announced as a bold step forward by the U.S. FNWS. She was cloned from the DNA of an animal named Willa. Willa was not one of the original 7 ancestors. Before those ferrets were found in 1981 on a ranch in the state of Wyoming, it was believed that the species had gone extinct forever. Willa, who has no living descendants, was captured in the wild, and researchers hope that her clone will increase genetic diversity and help the severely threatened species recover. Although this research is preliminary, it is the first cloning of a native endangered species in North America, and it provides a promising tool for continued efforts to conserve the black-footed ferret, said Noreen Walsh, director of the U.S. FWS Mountain Prairie region. Elizabeth Ann will not be released into the wild. She will instead live at the Colorado facility where she was born so that researchers can study her. The ferret was created by pet cloning company Viagen Pets and Equine, which successfully transferred the embryo into a surrogate ferret. Last summer, the companies cloned an endangered Mongolian wild horse using the same process. The Przewalski horse, which was cloned from a 40-year-old DNA of a wild stallion named Kurt. The black-footed ferret is North America's only ferret species and is among the most endangered mammals in North America. They are so threatened that scientists gave 120 of them COVID-19 vaccines over the summer. Tens of thousands of minks, a close relative of the ferret, have died after catching the coronavirus from humans. Millions of minks have been culled in Europe to prevent the spread of the virus. All right. Moving on. An Ohio man is marking the Christian tradition of Lent by giving up solid foods for 46 days and getting the majority of his sustenance from beer. Del Hall of Cincinnati said his Lent diet includes only beer, water, black coffee, and herbal tea, and as of this Friday morning, weighing in day 3 of his diet, he's down 5.8 pounds. I have only had 3 to 5 beers a day, he says. It's not like I'm drinking constantly. If you eat your standard diet, it gets boring. You don't eat the same thing every day, so I am definitely not going to drink the same thing every day. Hall said he successfully completed Lent beers diets in 2019 and 2020, each time noticing health benefits of his experience. He said he lost 40 to 50 pounds both years and noticed his blood pressure and cholesterol levels improved. The human body is an amazing thing, Hall stated. We were used to going through as a hunter-gatherers, feast and famine. The problem is we don't go through the famine anymore. Hall is raising money through a crowdfunding initiative dubbed Sergeant Dell's Virtual Tip Jar. He said the money will go toward local bars and restaurants that have suffered losses due to the COVID-19 pandemic. That's one way to lose weight. Drink some beer. And I don't know if you would want to trust this. And, you know, if you have trust issues, this is one place you will not want to stay. A luxury hotel in South Korea is apologizing after guests discovered that an issue with the mirrored windows allowed outside observers to see into the women's sauna area. The Grand Joseon, a recently opened 5-star resort on the island of Jeju, said the mirrored windows in the sauna are designed to prevent anyone outside the property from seeing in during the day, and blinds are supposed to come down at dusk when the mirror effect no longer works. Well, guests complained online recently that they discovered the sauna area was sometimes visible from outside the building. They said they could see the sauna bathroom and the showers through the windows. Oh my, that's a little risque, isn't it? The hotel apologized and said the sauna had been temporarily closed while officials investigate the malfunction with the mirrored windows and blinds. We're deeply sorry for causing any inconveniences to our customers in using some facilities at the women's sauna at the Grand Joseon Jeju Hill Suite, for missing mirror coating from some windows and problems in operating the blinds. The hotel said in a statement, "The sauna's operation has been suspended, and we're closely checking deficiencies and taking immediate action to correcting them." Police say they are reviewing CCTV footage from outside of the hotel to make sure no illicit photos or videos were taken. Thought of the Day happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Day is as follows. Are women unappreciated in UFO, paranormal, and cryptid research? Craig, underrepresented, represented 100%. Underappreciated? Well, I guess that depends on the person and how misogynistic they are. Anna, thank you for the Thought of the Day. Definitely underrepresented. Let's be honest, it's a massive sausage fest, isn't it? But it's going in the right direction. John, actually, I think these kinds of polls are a problem, as it legitimizes the idea that women are treated equally in the field of paranormal research. They are not even close. Nor are they treated equally in most fields. There are few minor exceptions. Haunted history, yes, quite underrepresented, but as women, we have the power to change it. This came out literally today. We were able to bridge what we do in the paranormal with the academic history and be acknowledged by the Heritage Commission in our community. Eric says no. Linda says yes. Sold is new says, are they well represented? Are black UFO researchers well represented? Probably not on both accounts. David, not if they hear you doing it. Clearly, they are underrepresented in what has been a predominantly male preserve. There has been a steadily growing body of women in the field, however, who I do think punch above their numerical weight and are very influential, proactive, and very active. All right, and let's move on here. Ron says no, because the balance of men over women on TV and promoted in other formats may be higher in numbers. But if you look at the women who do pursue various fields in this field, they're held in quite high reverence. The women are accepted at equal or above the men. All right, moving on. Cheryl Costa, former guest. Well, yes, absolutely. When we publish our research data, several male researchers asked us if we had a man check our work. In numerous social media groups associated with UFO topic matter, many men flat said that the women had no place in UFO research. In at least 2 occurrences at UFO conferences, a man thumbed through our book, then pounded on the text and asked if we had a man check our work. Lastly, many UFO conferences rarely have women researchers on their panels. If they do get to participate, they get talked over by the male panelists. Rocky, actually, when I'm investigating, I allow the women to go in first, so technically, they're in charge. Why not? Cameron, no, because I'm amazing. Dandy, Nope, Dave. Because I am a female and I have been abducted numerous times. Nikki, yes. Jamie, no. For those who are involved in these fields, they are equally respected and appreciated. However, I think they are just underrepresented. Less women seem interested than men in these topics and fields. Rita, great question. This is Dr. Rita Louise, by the way. I would like to know the answer. I have my viewpoint and would like to hear others. Christy, sometimes I feel that way for sure. I couldn't tell you if it was reality or just me being an emotional female, though. Denise, I feel yes, because any time after an investigation I have conducted and we need to bring in more help, I post for assistance and crickets. No one responds, or it's 101 questions of what was done wrong or incomplete or questioning my competence. Cindy, I think so. Being out in the field all those years ago, men are like, hey, little lady, be careful. And I'm like, honey, I can use that machete better than you. Amy, I appreciate the women in ufology so much, so I don't think they are underappreciated. Underrepresented, yes, and could be due to women having other interests or not feeling welcome in this field, not sure, but that will gradually change. Thank you for everybody taking part in the Thought of the Dave. We will do it all again tomorrow, and of course, thank you for doing that on Facebook and Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Thank you to Captain Shirk for the SOR Newswire. And to our great guest tonight, journalist Krissy Eliot. Make sure you check out her work. She's going to be a rock star. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms in Spreaker, YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You guys were magnificent this week. Thank you so much for taking the time. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, say it with me, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.